have Georgia taking on Alabama, and one of the biggest games being played this college football season. This game is going to be taking place 8 p.m. Eastern Time on CBS. We're going to see Georgia, who has the best defense in college football, matched up against Alabama, who in my opinion has the best offense in college football. Who is going to prevail? Now, Georgia last week defeated Tennessee 44-21. And Tennessee, to their credit, played a really good game in the first half. But after halftime, Georgia's defense flipped on the switch and said, hey, no more. And they completely shut down Tennessee's offense in the second half of that game. I mean, Tennessee couldn't get anything going. The passing game couldn't get going. The run game couldn't get going. Georgia's defense, for several turnovers, they beat up Tennessee up front, which is really hard to do because Tennessee has one of the better offensive lines in college football, which makes it even more impressive. I mean, Georgia's defense just dominated in every single phase of that game. I mean, up front, they wrecked Tennessee. Their secondary played well. I mean, Georgia's defense just completely had a shutdown performance against Tennessee. And Tennessee, in my opinion, is a really good football team this year. I mean, look at how they played in the first half of that game. But Georgia's defense came through for them. And I mean, Georgia's defense was a big reason why they were able to defeat Tennessee. And for Alabama, they just got out of a shootout against Ole Miss last week, led by head coach Lane Kiffin. Now, it was a lot of speculation that Ole Miss, led by Lane Kiffin, was going to be able to put up a lot of points on Alabama. But I didn't expect them to have the performance they had offensively against Alabama. I mean, Alabama, Ole Miss combined for what? 1 million yards combined of total offense, and they scored almost 1 million bajillion points combined. So, I mean, Alabama was able to win that game some way, somehow, because I didn't think it was going to stop. I did not think the scoring was going to stop at all. But finally, some way, somehow, Alabama was able to close the coffin on Ole Miss in that offense. And I have a question about Alabama's defense, because we know how good Alabama's offense is with Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle. You got Mac Jones, who I believe is a dark horse to win the Heisman Trophy this season, and Najee Harris. But my question lies with Alabama's defense. Now, I don't really know what to think about Alabama's defense. I don't know if Alabama's defense was just, they just were playing against a Lane Kiffin-led Ole Miss offense that just happens to be really good, which this is the same Ole Miss offense that put up 600 yards against Florida, even though I don't know how much of an achievement that is because Florida's defense has been pretty lackluster. So I don't know if it was just Ole Miss or if Alabama's defense is a little bit concerning or a little bit questionable. Okay, so I don't really know which one to believe. I'm going to say the fact that Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin having some familiarity with Nick Saban in that Alabama defense was able to take advantage of it. And I don't really think we're going to see another Alabama defensive performance like that for the rest of the season. Okay, I would just like to think that Ole Miss had Alabama's number offensively. And that's why I think Alabama's defense didn't perform all that great against that Lane Kiffin Ole Miss offense. But hey, Ole Miss has pretty much done that to every single opponent they faced so far this season. So for Alabama, are they going to be able to stop the run game of Georgia? Now, Georgia's offense has been pretty balanced, okay? Their offense is based on the run game, okay? Because listen, I'm pretty sure that Georgia wants to run the football to win this game. They don't want to have to rely on their quarterback, Stetson Bennett, to win this game for them, okay? They want Stetson Bennett to, make plays when he has to, but they don't want to overly rely on Stetson Bennett to have to throw the ball 35, 40 times to win this game. Okay, so if you're Alabama, you need to stop this run game of Georgia, okay? Because Georgia wants to run the ball to win games, okay? They don't want to, like I said, they don't want to overly rely on Stetson Bennett. They don't want to have to rely on him to win the game for you. So if you're Alabama, if you take away the run game, then you force Georgia to have to beat you through the air, okay? Now, Georgia has a pretty good group of wide receivers. You got Pickens and you got Karius Jackson, who has also been really good as well, okay? But you do still have Stetson Bennett at quarterback, okay? And Stetson Bennett has played fairly well. But if this game ends up being a shootout, I don't know how much I would trust Stetson Bennett in this game if this game ends up being a shootout. Okay, so I mean, Stetson Bennett, I know he's played fairly well. Not a knock on Stetson Bennett. I just question what would happen if Georgia isn't able to have success running the football and they have to rely on the passing game to win. Now, another question is going to be, who is going to win this game up front? And in particular, is Georgia's defensive line going to get the best of Alabama's offensive line? Because Georgia's defensive line has pretty much wrecked everybody they played so far this season. I mean, they dominated Auburn's offensive line. They dominated Auburn up front. They dominated Tennessee up front in the second half of that game. And I want to be able to see if they're going to be able to have that same success up front that they've had in the last previous games they played against Alabama this week. Because Alabama has a pretty doggone good offensive line. And if you want to beat Alabama, you have to disrupt the passing game with Mac Jones and these wide receivers. Okay? And if you give Mac Jones all day in the pocket, he is going to kill you. He's going to pick apart your defense one by one. And these Alabama wide receivers, you don't want to allow them to, just be able to get these one-play big touchdowns when they're having like these 70-yard touchdown receptions and things like that. So a good way to stop that is by getting pressure on Mac Jones and force Mac Jones to get the ball out fast instead of giving him all day to throw and allow these wide receivers to get all of these big plays in the passing game downfield. So if you're Georgia, you want to force Mac Jones to get the ball out fast. I also want to see, how is Najee Harris going to perform in this game? Because last week he had 23 carries for 206 rushing yards. He was averaging 9 yards per carry, and he had 5 touchdowns. Now, obviously, I doubt he's going to have that same performance that he had against Ole Miss against Georgia's defense, okay? But I want to see, how is Najee Harris going to perform against Georgia in his defensive line? Which all goes to the question that I asked before. Is Georgia going to be able to dominate Alabama's offensive line up front? And that's really where this game is going to lie. Okay, whoever is able to win the front and is able to win the line of scrimmage is going to win this game. Because at the end of the day, I know a lot of people are going to make this all about the playmakers. Everybody's going to talk about Stetson Bennett versus Mac Jones. Can Stetson Bennett be able to keep up these Georgia wide receivers versus the secondary of Alabama? These Alabama wide receivers matched up against Georgia's secondary. But it seems like a lot of people forget that football is a game that no matter how many great players you have at quarterback or at the skill position, it is a game that is won and lost in the trenches. Okay, look at how Tennessee got defeated by Georgia last week. Georgia dominated Tennessee up front at the line of scrimmage in the second half of that game. That's why Georgia won that game. Georgia dominated Auburn at the line of scrimmage up front in that game, the whole entire game. So, I mean, that just goes to show you that a lot of people in this day and age of college football always like to make it about the skill position players. But football is still a game that is won and lost up front based on who wins the battle at the line of scrimmage. Okay, so I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I'm a football fanatic. And one thing that I love watching about football is the line of scrimmage. Okay, even though I am a former wide receiver and I'm all about offense and I'm all about seeing these wide receivers and all about watching what these quarterbacks are able to do, I'm still a fan of what takes place on the line of scrimmage. And whoever is able to win that battle on the line is going to win this game. Now, for Alabama, you cannot afford to turn the football over against Georgia, because they are going to make you pay. Now, Georgia's offense, when they were able to get a couple of turnovers last week against Tennessee, I mean, they were able to take advantage of it. They came off with points. So if you're Alabama, you do not want to turn the football over to Georgia, because when you have a team like Georgia that basically the strength of their team is defense, they feed off that. Okay, and Georgia is able to convert all of those turnovers into points the majority of times. So, I mean, I think it's really important that Alabama make sure that they take care of the football. You don't want to get the football back to Georgia, especially if Georgia's able to get that run game going against Alabama's defense. They're going to be able to get the ball back and take some more time off the clock, which is what Georgia wants to do. They want to control the line of scrimmage, and they want to control the time possession battle. They want to chew up all the time left on the clock. So, I mean, for Alabama, I think turning the football over in this game could put them in a little bit of a disadvantage. Because when you look at how successful Georgia has been running the football, you don't want to get into a battle when Georgia's just completely getting extra possessions and running the football, taking time off the clock. So, I mean, for Alabama, this is going to be the toughest game that they're going to play this season, at least from a regular season standpoint, until the college football playoffs and things like that. So, I mean, now it comes down to making my prediction. Who is going to win this game? I'm going to take Alabama to win this game. And here's why I'm going to take Alabama to win this game. You see, Georgia still, although they do have a new offensive coordinator, this is a smash mouth team, okay? Now, I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh, Stetson Bennett can do damage in the pass game. Listen, like I said earlier, Georgia doesn't want to rely on Stetson Bennett to win the game for them. They want to win the game by relying on their defense to create turnovers and to get stops, and they want to rely on the running game to win games. Stetson Bennett isn't Georgia's way of winning football games, okay? But I think that Alabama is going to be able to pull off the victory some way, somehow, because Nick Saban has never lost to a former assistant of his, and I think that Nick Saban is going to be able to stop this run game of Georgia, and eventually Stetson Bennett is going to have to step up and win this game for Georgia, which I don't really think he's going to be able to do. And a lot of Georgia fans may get upset with that, and I can understand why, but it really isn't a game that Georgia has been put in a situation that you have to rely on Stetson Bennett to go out and make some clutch throws for you to win the game, okay? I don't think this is going to be a game that necessarily Georgia is going to dominate by running the football down Alabama's throat. Like, Stetson Bennett is going to have to play a game that is going to be heavily relied depending on his performance, okay? So, I mean, when you look at teams that have these smash mouth offenses that are predicated on running the football, they don't really do all that great against a team like Alabama, because to beat Alabama, you have to be dynamic in the passing game as well. And I simply don't think that Georgia's offense is to the point that they're going to be able to keep up with Alabama's offense. Now, I'm not saying that to disrespect Georgia's defense, because I'm not expecting Alabama to hang 40 or 30 points on Georgia's defense. But all I am saying is that will Georgia's offense be able to do enough to win this game against Alabama? I don't think so. So I'm going to take Alabama to win this game. 24-17 is my final score prediction in this game. I think Alabama is going to be able to do it. Is going to be able to get it done. I think Alabama with their offense is going to be able to have some big plays when they need them. And Georgia's defense is going to play good, but I think that Georgia's offense simply won't be able to do enough to win this game for Georgia, which is why I'm taking Alabama with the victory here. 24, I know I said 24-17, but I think Alabama wins. 28-17 is my final score prediction in this game.